Good day. Hi, everyone. Thank you for making time. Thank you for being here. This is African Colors, and we are happy and delighted to host today the Creative Passport. And this is part of our weekly programs, activities we are hosting throughout the week, this week. And we are supported by the French Embassy in Kigali, Rwanda, and the French Institut through their program Novembre Numérique. So, without further ado, I would like to welcome you, Carlotta. Thank you for making time. I know it's a busy week, but you managed to make some time for us and the audience. So without taking too much of your time, who are you, Carlotta?
Who am I? So my name is Carlotta de Ninni, and I'm the CEO of the Creative Passport. I mean, originally I'm Italian, but now I'm based and working in London. So I'm currently here. It's like a bit chilly out here. And what is the Creative Passport? So the Creative Passport is a digital identity for music makers linked to verified information about themselves and their work. And as Raul, you were saying, this is quite a busy week indeed, because we are about to launch our open beta on December 9. So there is literally a lot of things going on right now. And it's like someone is ringing. And it's like a crazy timing. But I'm super happy to be here and just share the vision, share the product, as well as trying to understand how to engage with as many music makers as possible from all around the world.
Just to get familiar with the products, what is the product itself, and how does it benefit an artist? How does he use it?
Yeah, exactly. So clearly, I said the Creative Passport is a digital identity for music makers, but what does it really mean? Right. And then we know that there are all sorts of information, but then what does it really mean and what an artist would do with it? So here's the thing, just with a little bit of background story, if you like, that brought us to actually develop the Creative Passport. Our founder is a British artist, Imogen Heap, and she's been part of the music industry scene for the last probably more than 25 years. And some years ago, we just realized that there were so many music services just coming up to life, whether fueled by new technologies such as blockchain technology, new ways of licensing music, new ways of monetizing also things. The only problem was that everything was pretty much based on music licensing. So nobody was really taking care of what we call like the artist information, the human information. So it's like a music maker, most of the times they've got so many skills. They are not just guitar players. They might be coders. They might be art directors or all sorts of amazing talents, as well as all the profile information that right now there is not really a way for music makers to be on top of, which is maybe the approved press pictures or the various biographies, or the various industry identifiers that are used by the industry to actually pay music makers. And with music makers, something important is it's quite an inclusive term. So we're not only speaking about the main artists, but also the session musicians, the producers, the audio engineers, also the ones that sometimes are a little bit invisible. You know, it's not only the main artist that makes the artwork. So with this concept in mind, we also investigated and organized lots of workshops in the last years to try also to understand a little bit the challenges from the music industry itself, whether it is record labels and publishers or collection societies, as well as new music services. And we just identified that the identity and verified information coming directly from music makers, it was something that it was just missing as part of the ecosystem. And so this is how the idea of the Creative Passport kind of became just, you know, it was born. And So now, having said a little bit of this background information, what a music maker can do with their Creative Passport. So Creative Passport technically is a progressive web app, meaning that is a website that you can access both via your mobile phone as well as via your computer. And the things that they can do is that it's a private dashboard in which music makers can input information about themselves. So again, it's like we were speaking about all the biographies that they might have, their location, their skills, the instruments they play, the industry identifier, the verified social links and other links, interviews. So it's like it's quite a rich profile information repository, if you want to put it like that. And as part of this kind of why we say it's kind of verified information, because our music makers, in order to sign up to the Creative Passport, we are putting some verification procedures in place. So we want to make sure that behind every Creative Passport, there is not only a real person, but also the right artistic persona, because a real person can have different artistic persona. There might be DJ Shadow by day and producer X by night sometimes, and they want to be identified differently. So we have implemented document scanning verification of international passport or driving license, as well as the verification of some of the industry standards that identify the person kind of behind the artistic persona as well, so that we can ensure that the person, again, behind their own Creative Passport is actually who they say they are. So having that in place clearly will just help to create a place where industry players can actually grab information about music makers. And another kind of feature that we are very excited about as part of this verification process and all the admin work that most of the times, especially also DIY music makers have to take care of themselves, is that the Creative Passport wants to act as an identity provider, which means that essentially when a music maker will need to sign up to Spotify for artists, for instance, or to a Bandcamp, most of the times what happens? It happens that you need to fill out the profile information over and over again, and always the same on what is your artist, what are your social links, you have a biography, you've got a picture, some will verify your real identity, maybe if there is some payments in place, some others don't. What we want to offer to both industry players as well as music makers is having a verified login through the Creative Passport, so that if you can imagine signing up to a new service that you want to use, that literally can span from ticketing to songwriting, online collaboration, since you already verified your government identity and verified your own information, you can just simply log in with the Creative Passport, and your profile is pretty much already fulfilled and filled out, so that it saves a lot of time on the music makers kind of side, because they don't have to type down the same information over and over again. And at the same time, on the business side, music services or again kind of representatives who really need to verify who they are onboarding, also as part of what is called the know your customer procedure, they can use a verified credential. So it's kind of a win-win in both situations, if you like, saving time and make it more efficient for the industry players.
Oh, thank you so much. That's really interesting. And this during these times, it's something that many people, many artists, African artists, let's say, they struggle in terms of trusting those kind of well, not only artists, but let's focus on artists for now. But many people are scared of having those kind of informations to third parties. How can you make them feel comfortable?
Yeah, so it's like a little bit more the security behind the data and what we're doing. So we are quite, it's a very strong part of our vision that is kind of also going with what the Creative Passport can actually facilitate with what regards new music services arising thanks to these verified data, but we're gonna go there maybe later. With what regards information, as we all know, right now, I mean, it's like data and data economy is huge, but then there is very little knowledge about normal users, as well as there is quite an unfair monetization of information. So it's like you've got a free tool, you are, as a normal user, you are enjoying the free tool, but then you are literally it's like all the information, everything that you do, what is called the behavioral data, everything gets just used by big companies without kind of naming them in order to sell this kind of information. So this is absolutely not what we're going to be doing with the Creative Passport. So the kind of information, the information that a music maker will input in their own Creative Passport, they are stored locally on their devices. What we offer as a company, we offer an encrypted backup data on the cloud, which means that as the company Creative Passport, we do not have access to your own data. So there is also a little bit of responsibility as well of the information that the music makers will have to put in their own Creative Passport. And that is a fundamental, because that is part of our vision and our ethos. Music makers not only should be able to manage, update, and control information about themselves. So we're not really speaking about the licensing information or rights ownership of who owns what with what regards music and songs and tracks. We're speaking about personal information. Then they should also own it and completely control it. Having said that, will there be monetization of this information? Yes. But the whole point, that is something that we really want to push and also to educate the music makers community. And we also can go now into what can happen with a tool like Creative Passport in the future, is that everything is based on opt-in and consent based. So this means that the information that our music makers will put in their own Creative Passport, that they have got some controls that will allow them to keep the information either restricted or private, or make them public. Clearly, they can also decide and select who to share the information with. So right now, clearly, we are just launching the open beta, and our first goal as the company is to have as many music makers on board as possible. But then kind of in the back end, we're also working with third-party companies to facilitate this integration, so that as sooner rather than later, we can offer this opportunity for music makers to log in with their own Creative Passport verified credential in third-party services. But what is going to happen is that all the information that the service requires from the Creative Passport, that the user will have to actively opting in and being okay about, sharing the biography, the real name or not. So that is something that is very, very kind of important and fundamental about kind of what we are doing. And the fact about the monetization, again, is like everyone speaks about data economy and unfair monetization of data. Data has got value, has got lots of value. This doesn't mean that you cannot monetize data, but then ultimately, if any profit or any substantial monetization out of this information is made, our kind of as part of our vision, we do think that it should be the music makers themselves benefiting out of any profit, and then is also part of our company structure. We are not for profit, so the whole kind of business model on a B2B side is that after we're quite a small and lean team, after we have got our operational costs covered, any further profit coming from offering these verification services to third-party services or allowing third-party services to access this verified information that is going to be monetized, all the profits should go back to the music makers. And lots of opportunities can literally start, and lots of new services can be created thanks to this enriched and verified, if you like, data pool that it's very much organized and managed in an artist-centric way.
Just for people following us, maybe today
Yeah.
and tomorrow, another day, can you help them understand who are the music makers you are referring to?
Yeah. So music makers are all the creative people in as part of the music industry. So we've got songwriters and composers who are usually the ones who are not the public faces of the music that we listen to, but then they are the one writing the lyrics and the composition, they write the music. Then we've got the main artists, feature artists that are the actual performers. So we've got like, I don't know, it's like Lady Gaga is actually the feature artist, but then she has got a whole team of songwriters and other people actually contributing to the kind of music that she's performing. Then we've got what we call the session musicians or just performers that are musicians, but then they're either part of the studio recording, so they're not part of a band or they're not the main artist, but they still work a lot, whether in concerts or again, it's like in a recording session. Then we've got what is called the producer. So the producer is the actual person that is a little bit like, if you like, the project manager of the whole recording process. So most of the time, the producer is also part of the creators. So it's not just a pure project manager. He might be also a songwriter as well. He might help with the mood of the song. That's kind of adding some beats. It's quite a complicated. It's not just divided in boxes. What music makers do. I mean, a reason more why we do think that we should give them a way to put all sorts of information about themselves. Then we've got the audio engineers as well, who are the technicians who make sure that whatever is recorded actually sounds great. And there are all sorts of audio engineers that are recording engineer, mixing engineer, and mastering engineer. So these are the main the main players under the kind of umbrella term called like music makers, right? The ones who actually make the music.
Yes. So can you talk a bit about how this product will also improve the visibility online? How does it help an artist or a music maker in terms of branding themselves online?
Yeah. So clearly, step by step, the product that we are gonna be launching in open beta this 9th of December, it has got just a public functionality, because we just said that it's just a private dashboard where people can put information about themselves, and then it's just going to help them to start getting organized. And the only public function that is going to have for the moment is the opportunity for the music makers to create a public profile. So it's going to be a web link. You can imagine it as a creative CV that music makers can just share around whether is needed. But then with what regard the visibility and, if you like, as you said about the brand of a music makers, but more it can be actually the visibility through searchability, if you want to put it like that. Another piece of development that we are really looking forward to start is the creation of a research portal as well, because clearly you have to imagine that you've got all sorts of information, and we are really working hard to engage with as many different artistic communities as possible worldwide. But then how can we help music makers being able to find themselves, or how can we help brands who want to work with some specific music makers for creative projects? Also, it's like crossing almost the definition of music maker with influencer, right? Because most of the times also with advertising and creative project, music is a big part of it, whether it's the creation of an online video or for social media. So how can we make sure that music makers can raise above the noise and be found based on very in-depth profile information? So that is what we think we would help the worldwide music makers community, is like be found. Why? Because third-party businesses or also other music makers will be able to actually search for the right person, for a music maker that is based specifically in a part of the world within an age gap, potentially also going into special private data like ethnicity, that have got some specific skills, some specific interests, that can play some specific instruments, etc., etc. So it's like giving an infrastructure where we can make all this data searchable in an easy way through what is called like APIs, and then also offering eventually a research portal. That is how we think we could help the kind of a visibility and the actual searchability of music makers worldwide.
Wonderful. And can you speak a bit about how this product will help artists and maybe other music makers to increase their revenues, to help them have more revenue streams through this?
Yeah, so clearly I have to say that this is kind of a slow burner. So we are a company founded by music makers, and the product is created by music makers for music makers. And as a very direct answer about tomorrow, what can, how the Creative Passport can help to earn more money, if we think about that the money earned, the major kind of money earned is about licensing music, the Creative Passport is not going to be involved in increasing royalty pay or all this kind of argument, if you like, about the fact that music makers are not really paid enough. However, the kind of mid to long-term vision is that, first of all, if a music maker can be searched through a verified information, they can gather more work, more collaboration, more it's like a commission of songs that maybe brands might want to commission, because again, they're looking for a specific person. So that is ultimately what the kind of a little bit more medium to long-term plan of how monetarily speaking music makers can benefit from the Creative Passport. The second one is what I was saying about having an infrastructure where third-party services can actually access this kind of information that can create new revenue streams. Because right now, again, we're all focusing about music streaming. But what if there was, I mean, I can give you literally from top of my head an example of an application that right now is not possible to have, but then potentially could be a new revenue stream in the pockets, in this case of songwriters. So imagine if you had, as a normal user, as a normal human being, an application that would allow you, using localization data, to either create an itinerary around where your favorite songs were written, or first time in a city, I just have got, like, again, me as a normal human being, I just have got this app, and then I just, look at it and I'm like, ooh, in this cafe, a song was written. Let me hear this song. I do not know this song. Oh, great. I love the artist. Boom. I have got literally one new fan as the artist like gained from this app that right now it doesn't exist. Why this app that would allow some sort of this service that does not exist? Because localization information about where some specific songs were written, there is no place to have that information verified, for instance. So a service like that right now cannot exist because there is no way to access the information. So if we allow music makers to put this kind of information in their own Creative Passport, that again is like right now is focusing on profile information, but then we're going to move also into descriptive metadata around songs, and then eventually integrating with third-party services that deal with credits. So it's like it's an expanding kind of scenario what regards the data. That specific app that I just briefly described, that they would have to pay to access that information. And rather than paying a metadata company that they would, I don't know, curate internally the information and do not really share the revenue with the music makers, so we want to be the fair option. So it's like music makers have put all the information in there. You can just access it, you can just pay a subscription, and then all the profits will go to the music makers themselves because they were the one taking care of the information. So is this kind of bigger vision of a new music ecosystem that is going to be offering new experiences to fans that go beyond music licensing? Is it going to happen tomorrow? No. We wanted to make it happen? Yes. We do not want to make it all. So I'm not saying that Creative Passport is going to be developing these services. What we want to do is to create the plumbing of it. We want to give a tool for music makers that immediately is going to be helpful to sort out the information. It's like in a couple of months' time, is like, let's say at the beginning of 2021, they will also be able to use it to streamline their admin work about signing up, using profile for getting their passport. No, they can just log in with the Creative Passport, and then ultimately that will bring them visibility to gather new collaborators worldwide, as well as potentially new income streams with what regards commissions or creative projects, and then the creation of these new services. Why? Just because the information are there and available to be used. So that is kind of the steps of evolution of our vision.
I wanted to focus more and develop more on the importance of the Creative Passport in terms of market integration, players, collaboration, and how the future of the music industry will be improved if we have artists use and adapt to this product and consume more this product.
Yeah. So, well, clearly there are different benefits. I've spoken a lot about the music makers' benefits, which is, again, is like making sure to manage their own information, do not do the same admin profile information all over again and being searched and being, it's like making sure that they can be found by the information out of by themselves. With what regards on the industry side, if you like, and I mean, funny enough now, with all this situation of a pandemic, that everything is done in remote, there is a big need to being able to identify people in remote. So right now, this whole sort of, I need to verify the person that is using my service, or the person that I'm paying for, whether it's, again, music licensing or other things. Right now, the whole pipeline is still very archaic, because what most services do, the ones that they have to verify the information, they ask pictures of or photocopies of passports, right? And the whole process requires a lot of manual work in verifying that all the credentials are actually verified, and it's just not efficient, as well as time. It's like it takes just a lot of time on the user end as well. To every time they have to verify their own identity, every time they have to scan their passport, or doing this kind of verification over and over and over again. So for music players that would need to do that, and then according to the various legislation and where they are kind of based in the world, having being able to just pay a verification service that will enable them to have all the verified attributes that they need, whether it is a nationality, real name, date of birth, etc., as well as, in this case, profile information, then there is just a massive, well, saving money on their admin stuff as well. And then also it's just more efficient, because right now we do have some technology that can enable that. So there is kind of more on the industry side, if you like. And then at the same time, there is a little bit of struggle to actually access verified information, and also with what regards with credits and kind of discography, but also kind of updated biography. So most of the times, what these music services need is just a direct way to just gather this kind of information that is not repetitive for the music makers, but then at the same time, it's not just based on information that they can fish out of internet. I mean, if you go to Wikipedia, all love to Wikipedia because it's just an amazing source of general knowledge. But most of the times, if you go, or also even if you go on Google and type down the name of the artist, you might have verified information on the artist's website, but then most of the times, all the other sources of information, they're not directly verified by the human being. Is either grabbed from Wikipedia or grabbed from other data repositories that sometimes these information are curated by fans, or sometimes there are just contributors. But the thing is that ultimately, who knows better if not the human being themselves? And it's not that this kind of unverified or crowdsourced information is completely terrible per se, but then we should have a unique source of truth, and then eventually also other sources that kind of depend from that. So that is also a little bit one of the struggles, if you like, not only for music services, but also from the music makers community, that sometimes they're like, I want to change that biography, they don't allow me. It's like, that biography is 4 years old. I change my biography, I don't know, once a month. How can I do that in an easy way? So those are the kind of issues that we are trying in collaboration with all sorts of players to solve and bring to the table.
So another question I was asking myself is, how do you work with, in terms of education, how do you work with schools or universities or something like that? How do you have you thought about that? Are you having plans for that? Can you tell us more on that segment?
Yeah. So obviously, education for us is quite a fundamental part, of our vision. So over the years, we have been in contact with different music universities and other universities. Again, it's like not only the UK, but also in America and Europe, and pretty much, if I have to be honest, mostly in English-speaking countries for the moment. And besides Europe, of course. And what we would like to do is just to organize, not only with universities, but also with artist organizations, just a way to, I don't know, organize maybe workshops and trying to explain why it is important since day zero, or since you are a student, to make sure that you know that your data and your information are important and everything needs to be in place. And there is a little bit of stigma still, because specifically for music makers, all they want to do is just making music, right? But then what happens is that the creation process is so chaotic. They start to do actually and making music, and the kind of outcomes is that either they will have a manager that would just take care of all these admin stuff on their behalf, or they would just end up just not knowing what to do. And not because the music universities do not teach you, but then everything changes so quickly, and all sorts of services are changing also and adding to the market. So what we think it's very important is some sort of collaboration, and maybe pushing also students to sign up to Creative Passport, so that they can start also to have a feeling about, for instance, what an IPN number is. That is an important identifier that is used by the industry to get session musicians and music makers paid as part of the licensing process. Understanding and also potentially also knowing and discovering also other music makers, again, to do some sort of collaboration. But then right now we have just been focusing so much at getting the product ready. Once that is going to be, you know, out of the box, I don't know how to say that, but we will also engage more with way more universities. And also another thing that we do as part of not only the education, but more like the word of mouth, we've got an international ambassadorship community that help us a lot to developing the product and also organizing workshops. So it's also maybe something that I would like to launch a call if any of the listeners might be interested in, because every piece of development that we do as part of the product not only is discussed with our ambassadorship community, but they are also helping to test the actual technology. Because if it doesn't make sense for music makers, then what we are doing, it does not make sense. So there is a very core importance about the usability of the product and also what music makers think, because everything starts from them. Then obviously we might need to make a plan or understanding what can be achieved or what cannot be achieved based on financial availability, based on the, you know, it's like how the team is put, but then ultimately everything is starting from the music makers.
Wonderful. Just to note that this service will be free for now, right?
Yes.
Unless I'm wrong, it's going to be free, right? It's free for now. Can you talk about how this tool or this project can be a source of job creation and contribute to the economies, please?
Well, how it will contribute to the economy as a whole, it would be just bringing more visibility to music makers again. But then how, it's like it's quite a big question, if you like, because how is gonna impact the whole economy? I mean, that's a tricky question you ask me. For sure, we think that it's gonna impact the music ecosystem, and then also as part of the economy. I mean, the creative industries are still is like a very, like, at least I might know a little bit more information about Europe. So it's like I'm not sure about the percentages about what creative industries bring to the overall community, the overall economy in Africa. It might be interesting to discover that more. You might know that number, but then in Europe, and then specifically also in UK, that is quite a substantial amount. So obviously providing more efficiency, and specifically in the music industry, providing a tool that helps a better connection, that is going to be a benefit as it is. Also because music makers right now, also because of the pandemic, they're struggling, because live concerts, which it's one of the biggest revenue streams for most music makers right now, they're completely, if not canceled, but then dramatically decreased. And also it's like a kind of a funny enough, from the concerts, a kind of a scenario, everyone moved into live stream. So now concerts are done in live stream. So this also was a little bit of a call to action to music makers to realize that they have to sort themselves online, because again, new services are appearing. Like right now, when I say about third-party services, right, and also the benefit of the economy, these third-party services that we all speak about, and right now there is just an explosion of options that allow people to do live streams and also all sorts of VR and XR company. In a very basic business terms, that the more services there are, the more businesses there are, and you know, the more the whole economy, and in this case the creative sectors, grows. So it's kind of a hand-in-hand kind of situation. if you like. Then no, businesses pay taxes, so they provide, they just bring all sorts of income and work also to local population or wherever they are. So this is not really specific for the music makers. So how can we think we can provide, we as the Creative Passport, again, provide to the global economy? We can, through data, we can invite entrepreneurs around the world to create an amazing service that they would not be able to. And I don't know, maybe the next unicorn will be created, and they're using the information from the Creative Passport. You know, it's like the sky is the limit, as long as there is access to this kind of information in a fair way, so that the artist is not only remunerated but also in control of it.
I think this is my my last question before maybe you do a quick demo of the product.
Yeah.
What is your what is your vision and how can I say your wishes in terms of these products, and
yeah,
in Europe, in Africa, in also other continents? What will be your wishes, your vision for this product?
Yeah, so my personal, that is also kind of the company wishes, but my personal wishes for the product is that to not only empower music makers, but bring them into a business conversation that is quite different compared to now. And it's all a matter of tools, because what really gets me angry sometimes when speaking with industry partners is that music makers are always the first investing in whatever they're doing, and they're always the last ones seeing the benefit of it. So that is kind of the first statement. The second statement is that the industry in general think that the music makers are not good at keeping their data and updating stuff, like just in general, whether it is a music release, whether it is it's like a credits option. And there is this stigma that music makers are just messy. Now, that is not true, because music makers are entrepreneurs. They have to do everything themselves. And now, especially now, it's not like back in the 80s that someone would just, go in the recording studio and then getting the, it's like all sorts of substances and having fun. And then, it was okay also like that. But right now, there is not that kind of pipeline of I'm signed to a label, the label takes care of everything, I just go there and do my beat, and then I don't have to think about it anymore. There is self-promotion, there is all sorts of marketing strategies, there is ways to find also other jobs. So this concept of, and this kind of stigma of the industry that the music makers are not able to keep up and keep with their own information, we just want to kill that kind of preconcept, because it's like, if you give them a tool, trust me, they will do it, because they not only would feel empowered, but then they can actually help you too to sort out all the sorts of information madness that you have got, rather than for a record label sorting out maybe, whether it's some credits or grabbing the latest, again, whether it's a picture or a biography, rather than doing 10 calls and taking you half a day. If you give them tool, and if you integrate with a tool like the Creative Passport that gives the opportunity to music makers to be on top of their own information, then it's like, there you go, it's like a job done for both ends. And also this concept that right now, again, is like music is just everywhere, and music making is just, it's a worldwide thing, right? And the concept of creating an international community that not only is diverse as matter of sex or sexual orientation or ethnicity or music genre or interest, so it's like diversity 2.0. That is kind of the beauty of the whole product, because all this diversity comes out of this information that we are helping the music makers to just organize for themselves, and the opportunity to allow the artistic community just to find collaborators that they would not have found elsewhere. Because obviously, arguably speaking, is like it really depends on which kind of level of music makers we are and which level of career. Because if we've got an A-list star, if they want to find maybe some collaborator, it might be easier for them comparing to a starting musician, or also, you know, it's kind of a musician that I am a music maker as well. Am I a professional music maker? Not anymore. I mean, I used to play classical guitar. I'm a former audio engineer. So it's like my career took a little bit more of a different path, but then just the opportunity to have these verified, in this case, on the technical side, community that can just find each other and also be found. And it's just something that is beautiful, and it's something that is missing, because it's not about really social media or it's like that we do not see like the Creative Passport being a social media for music makers. You know what I mean? That might be something that can come on top of the Creative Passports, but then the opportunity just to have all this information and all sorts of amazing opportunity can come out of this pipeline of information. That is something that it's so exciting and inviting as well, because everyone is very, not really very negative, right? But then there is a little bit of being worried about how the future looks like, you know, with the pandemic and with streaming not paying enough. But then if you imagine how many opportunities the future holds that we do not even know yet, and then we can start to build thanks to verified information and thanks to an international music makers community. Because again, it's like, this is not really a top-down approach. We are just so much artist-centric, and the beauty of having also, you know, our ambassadorship community that can just share the word through word of mouth. It's like if every music makers we have met in the last 3 years can just say to 4 people why they think, you know, it's important, the Creative Pass, and they can sign up, and then these 4 people can say to other 4 people, you see that you can have like a snowball effect. So that is kind of what excites me the most. Is like, finally there is something that is just not only made by music makers for music makers, but we're doing it really for them.
Thank you so much. I think it's clear, and I know you are a busy person during this time, right? So I don't want to hold you further. I would like to thank you so much for your time, for your great insights, showing us, telling us more about your products. I really appreciate that, and for sure, many music makers across Africa will be joining this initiative for sure. It's something needed, and that can help them a lot. So feel free, you can share the products.
I'm gonna give you a demo what we have built so far, which is gonna be also what is gonna be part of the December 9th. And just before I go into the demo, and also for all the music makers that's kind of listening right now, if you want to know more about joining our ambassadorship community, or just generally knowing more about, you know, the product and what is going to be next, just drop a line at info@creativepassport.net, and we can just connect you with the right person on the team, whether it's, you know, for ambassadors, whether it's further information about technology, or further information about if any entrepreneur or is like a music service currently listening to might be interested in the verification services that we can provide as part of a new client onboarding. Just info@creativepassport.net, and then I'll just pick it up, and also other team members. But then now, without further ado, let me just show what we have built so far. Okay, so in this case, I'm gonna give you a demo of our already verified and pre-populated Creative Passport with the information of our founder, Imogen, because she's got quite a lot of information, so it's just easier to showcase it at various opportunity. In any case, for a new user, then after December 9, in order to create a new creative passport, it's just as simple as typing down an email and password. You would receive a verification email, and then all the verification processes would happen after. So it's like the sign up process is very simple. And now I'm just going to sign in. And these are the kind of two main sections that we have got as part of the user interface. So we've got this left section in which there are the information about the real person. And as I was saying, is that these are, in this case, the real name, image and and date of birth. These information are coming from the actual scanning of government documents, and we are working with a verification partner named Yoti. So what happens is that in order to verify your real and government identity, you would have to go and download the Yoti app, going through all the scanning of the documents, and then just scan this QR code through the Yoti app. And in this case, all the verified information will be immediately transferred through the Creative Passport. Over the next, let's say, 6 months, we're also going to implement the direct scanning functionalities as part of the Creative Passport onboarding. Also because Yoti has got millions of users already using their digital identity, but then we just want to make sure also to offer something that is more direct and a person does not need to go and download another application. But then once this verification is done, we're also verifying what is called the industry identifier. So at the moment, our first industry partner is PPL, which is a UK-based collection society. So we are offering the verification of what is called the IPN number, or International Performer Number. So this identifier is used by industry players to pay performers and session musicians. So in this case, since we are just about to launch, we just have this first verification partner, but our aim is to expand and talk with as many collection societies in this case as possible worldwide, so to be able to cover as many music makers as possible, regardless of where they're based from. Then here in the center, we actually have got all the information we were talking about. So a music maker, once they verify they are a real person, they can add the different artistic persona. So in the case of Imogen, our founder, she just have her artistic persona as being Imogen Heap. But then again, if someone might need to have two different kind of artist acts, they can just create as many as they feel represented by. So let me just go through the various information categories that we have got at the moment. So we've got the artist name, as well as aliases and AKAs, biography, as I said, country where people are based, and city. Sounds like that is a category that specifically was requested by our ambassadorship community, that allows them to define who they think they sound like, rather than this information being based on what other people listen to. Then we've got the music genre they self-identify with, music roles, and all sorts of, like orchestra, and these kind of information are coming from an industry standards that is called DDEX. Then we've got non-music roles and other skills and instrument played. So in this case, these are just test fields that the text field that the people can just fill out with all sorts of non-music roles that they have got. And then we've got, again, hardware used, software used, endorsement, if any music maker is actually endorsed by a brand, they can put it in here and potentially make it public. Their interest and inspiration. I mean, here with Imogen, we've got all sorts of information about their interest, the current projects that she's working, that goes kind of beyond her music maker's career, their favorite music makers. So this is also another piece of information that is very interesting in this case for playlists, different playlists or artist radio curation from streaming services. Because, for instance, if you open an artist radio, again, how do streaming services create this kind of playlist or artist radio? They either curate them internally, so there is a person that puts together, songs that they think they're okay, or they are curated based on algorithms that study the behavioral data of listeners. So in this case, for instance, for our founder Imogen, she is always linked to independent, very tech related female artists, Bjork or Kate Bush. But the problem is that she doesn't, it's not that she doesn't like those artists, but she has got quite a very different music taste. So then again, if we could allow music makers to input the kind of information, then automatically music services can actually grab that information and pay to access that information so that they can offer different experiences to their listeners, and then the music makers would have the benefit out of it. Then we've got IDs. In here, we've got all the identifiers, and we've got the three major standards. That is ISNI, IPN, and IPI. ISNI is an identifier that is not only used for the music industry, but also for writers and other creative sectors. IPN, as I was saying before, is an identifier used to pay the music makers and the musicians, whereas the IPI, which is the interest party identifier, is an identifier that is used to pay the songwriters and the composers. And then again, it's like music makers can be not only a songwriter, but they can be all of these, categories. And there are also lots of other proprietary identifiers that are not considered as standards, but it's like music makers can have up to 30 different identifiers. So again, it's like providing a place where they can put and verify potentially all this information can help them not only have them for themselves, but share to the person that they are interested with. And then we've got the section about representatives and contacts. In here, music makers can add all their, yep.
Okay.
Did I lose you?
Sorry, I was. Yes. So I think it was a connection issue or something like that. Sorry for that. But I think you can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes. Now I think you can. Yes. Now you can proceed.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I think there's a connection.
It's okay. We're just going through all the information here, and then the identifiers and industry standards. And I arrived to the representatives and contact section. So in this case, music makers can just write down all the people they work with from a label, publisher, past or current, so that then again, if they make that information available, whoever wants to license their music knows exactly who to contact, whether it is licensing for an advertising or for a sync or for just a private usage of a track. Then again, it's like not that this kind of information cannot be easily sourced on the web, but then most of the times it's very hard to actually find everything in one place. So it's also a matter of making it easy for businesses to find this information so that they can make, more efficient business with music makers. And then for the moment, with these categories infrastructure, because we are, as I was saying, this is what we're going to be launching December 9 for the open beta. And then the platform is just evolving as we go. And we're going to add also different features in the next months. We've got the official link section. So in this case, it's just a way to add all sorts of links as well as customized link, whether it's an interview or whether it's a podcast that someone did, so that again they can have that in their profile. Now, just to finish off about the whole concept of having information public or private or sharing it with industry, with services integrated, as you can see next to each data field, there is a switch that allows the music maker to keep that information kind of confidential, if you like, so only available through their own private dashboard, or music makers will be able to make a piece of information public. What is meant by public? It means that it's going to be publicly available through our public APIs, which means that every service that will integrate with the platform will be able to access that information that is defined public. But regardless of whether a piece of information is public or private/restricted, what about the possibility to integrate with third-party services? So this is what we were saying about integration and saving time. So the moment I am logging in with my Creative Passport to a music service that can be, for instance, a Spotify for artists, right? Spotify for artists needs to verify the profile of artist, as well as they need to access some information that otherwise the music maker would have to add in the Spotify for Artists user interface. If we allow a service like Spotify for Artists to actually access this verified information, so you see the moment a music maker would change a biography in here, they would just have to update it one time and share the update with the integrated services that are actually accessing that specific piece of information. So rather than logging in 30 different places and copying and pasting the text, whether it is, again, the biography or all sorts of pieces of information that I've shown in here with a couple of 3 or 4 clicks, including label and publisher or other representatives that might have access to the Creative Passport, then the actual time used to keep this information fresh and up to date is literally like not even half, even more, because it's just a matter of saying, okay, I'm just changing it in here, I'm sending it to the publisher, I'm saving the changes, done. I have updated my biography in, again, it's like 5 different places, 30 different places, etc. So that is what the Creative Passport at open beta launch would look like.
Wow. Well, so I'm excited. I think everyone will be excited about this, and we can wait to see this in place and be used by many creatives as possible.
Yeah.
So thank you again.
Thank you so much,
Carlotta, for your time. It's about time, and we'll definitely keep rolling the ball and making things happen.
That's great.
And yeah, thank you so much. And
thank you.
Thanks to our partners, the Embassy of France in Rwanda, the creatives, various creatives in Rwanda, and yourself for your time given. And I really appreciate the busy schedule, but you found a way to put us in, and we appreciate that. Thank you so much, Carlotta.
Thank you. Bye. Have a lovely day.
Bye.